So now let's go and look at a practical application of the relational database model. Here is my music shows artist schema, a diagram of it. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go into a tool that I've had for many years called Irwin. Irwin is a data modeling tool. I'm going to get rid of this thing because I don't want to go into too much detail. Remember, this course is an introduction to Oracle 11g, and it's primarily about the basics of SQL code, other than some Oracle architecture and things like that. Again, back to my picture, I'm going to try to make this small enough so we can get both on the screen without getting in a pickle. What I'm going to show you is how this thing actually gets drawn. It seems that I've actually lost my toolbox over there. This is a version of Irwin, a relational database modeling tool that I've had for about 15 years at least, if not longer. I still use the same thing. Still works. As long as you stick to the basics and you don't get really complicated, it's more than adequate. So, the central part of this particular schema is the show. So I'm going to click this thing, which creates a table. I'm going to call it show. And in there, I'm going to have a thing called a primary key in the top box. Primary key is a unique value in the show table. So the show table will only have unique show ID values. You won't have show ID 1 twice. You'll only have it once. Okay, so now it's attributes that I would add in. These are all foreign keys. Foreign keys are copies of primary keys from other tables brought into the show table based on the relationship between the show table and other tables. So the only field that you actually need to add to this table, let's just make this smaller. First of all, I'm not going to get caught by that again. I'm going to move that over. I'm going to do this so I can see what's going on there. I need to click that little arrow thing, and this is not a course in Irwin, but I'm just showing you how I would go about creating the relational database model. The show table, and I'll go and click the table object, the venue table, and we give it its primary key or unique identifier, and I'm also going to add a name, a city, a state, and a country. Can't spell. Let's go to here, click again, click off this thing. The graphic image doesn't have these shadows in it. Right click on the background, get rid of the shadows, and it also has them colored blue, so now you can see it's all exactly the same. This is how I actually drew this model with this tool. And I'm not showing you how to use the tool, I'm just showing you how I would go about creating a database model without going through the details and the mathematics and set theory of normalization and denormalization. All I'm doing is I'm separating shows and venues, and then I would add something like, for instance, let's keep it simple. I'm not going to add everything, otherwise we'll be here for a week. Ticket, ticket ID, and then as you can see in the ticket table, the show and price ID come from other tables. So we click off that table again, we don't want to create another table. We're going to create the seat number. Okay, so let's also go and make it blue so it looks nice. Now let's create some links. This is a one-to-many relationship, this is a many-to-many relationship, and this is also a one-to-many relationship. This is identifying, this is non-identifying. Identifying means that something identifies something else, and non-identifying means something doesn't identify something else. So let's do this quickly. These are all identifying relationships. What it means, I will simply show you without telling you. This is an identifying relationship, and I got to click the arrow to move it. If you look at the relationship, it's a solid line. It's taken the venue ID and stashed it into the show table. Now let's go and right click on the relationship, go to the relationship editor and change it to non-identifying and see what happens. And as you can see, the venue ID has moved. Let's go back again so we'll show you exactly what happens there. Identifying. All that happens when it's an identifying relationship means that the venue ID or the parent key is actually part of the primary key. Technically, where it should actually be is, no, wait a minute, the venue should be on top. I don't know why it didn't rearrange that. Right, the venue is a more significant primary key value than the show ID, but the identifying relationship identifies the show by the venue. In other words, it is required because it's part of the primary key, it's unique. Again, a non-identifying relationship, if I was to make this a non-identifying relationship, it wouldn't be part of the primary key. So the ticket is independent of the venue and the show, which is actually incorrect. You wouldn't have the same seat map for a different venue, but there's no connection between the ticket and the venue. So actually, it's debatable as to whether this is actually non-identifying or identifying. What I've actually done in this model, this is an old diagram, is I filled in these lines to make it look nice, which I shouldn't have done because I wasn't trying to expand on the relational database model or the relational model. I was trying to describe Oracle and SQL. This is the basics of how you create a set of tables and join them together. There are an intense set of rules called normal forms applied as what they call normalization. It's quite complicated and it's really beyond the scope of this course.